Hey there guys, it's me John, and I'm here with a video, surprisingly enough. With all the social distancing and quarantine that's been going on, I felt it would be good to talk about some Dungeons & Dragons. Because why not? Dungeons & Dragons is super fun, and it's a great way for us to kind of leave our problems and go into a fantasy world together. So College Humor, or Dropout, as their kind of service is now called, have been doing a show called Dimension 20, which is their actual play D&D show. They're on the 5th season now, which is a Crown of Candy, which the first episode of that just dropped, and that's the one I'm going to be talking about. I'm a huge fan of Dimension 20. I love Fantasy High Season 1 and 2. Unsleeping City is also a really great show that they've done. I've not watched the side quests, so Escape from the Bloodkeep or Tiny Heist, but I've heard very good things about both of those. I did want to talk about, however, the first episode of A Crown of Candy, which is their 5th season and their most recent show that just started. The first episode, there is Strength and Sweetness, just dropped, and this is already is a super fun and interesting show. So it is kind of set in this very Game of Thrones style world that is based around the major food pyramid, the American food group. So there's the world of Calorum, which I assume Calorum, calories. At least it's where my brain went, is where the joke is. And there's these different kingdoms that have all. There was a 20-year war. I believe the war was either 20 years ago or it lasted 20 years. I think the details got a little bit lost on me, but there was a ravening war that happened. And so to end this war, there's this agreement called the Concordance, where essentially all of these empires agree to the Concordance, and there will be a Concordant emperor who will rule over all of these separate kingdoms. Kind of like how in Game of Thrones, there's the North, Eddard Stark rules the North, but he also, reports to King's Landing. He reports to Robert Baratheon at King's Landing. And so this is a world very much kind of in line with that, where each of the major food groups, there's the meat lands and Fructaria, and these other areas. The one that we mainly focus on is the land of Candia, which is where we start, where there is ruled by King Amathar Rox, who is very much very much like Robert Baratheon. He's this warrior. He's the stalwart warrior and soldier who loves to fight and loves battle, but doesn't really love ruling. And so there's that dichotomy there, very much he's a simple guy who, is very doesn't enjoy the pageantry and the very, the strictness of what being a ruler entails. And you see that in relationship to his twin daughters, Jet and Ruby Rox, who are level 1 rogues. The king is a level 3 Storm Herald barbarian. And it's a very fun story. So far, it's a very interesting story about this family, about the Rox family, and kind of them being put in this situation where the Amathar Rox, the king, his good friend Gustavo, who is the current Concordant emperor. So he's the head ruler of all of these separate lands. He is on death's door. He's, horribly sick, and he's essentially sent a message to his good friend Amathar saying, hey, saying in not so many words, I want you to be at this tournament I'm going to be holding because I think that I want you to be the next emperor. That's kind of the gist that we get from this letter that Amathar Rox receives. And so the story, in this first episode at least, kind of follows along the different members of the king's kind of envoy and his group, and this decision to go to the Concordant Emperor and to go to this tournament. Every character kind of has different reasons for wanting to do this. There is the stalwart captain of the guard, who is just this gummy bear knight, who's just one of my favorite characters because he's a very lawful good, knight at arms, the right hand man who just really wants to do a good job and really wants to protect the kingdom and protect everyone involved, but also doesn't maybe get as much respect as he would want, especially from the two twin princesses. The twin princesses, Ruby and Jet, who are delightful. They are level 1 rogues, and they're very much have been sheltered and kind of, allowed to roam and do whatever they want. They're very much the classic, like kind of like Arya Stark, where they're not interested necessarily in ruling or interested in kind of being queens or anything like that. They have their own kind of wants and kind of needs they want to do. Neither of them are interested at all in just being rulers, which kind of makes sense with their father, who also does not want to be a ruler at all. He's very much just happy being a warrior, being a soldier, but he's kind of not really in that position to be put in. And we also have the other member of our party, who is Chancellor Lepine Cadbury, who's this very stuffy warlock who's like the tutor of the twin princesses. And he's just a wonderful character, especially combated with the knight, because they have that, like, we're both of our jobs are to protect princesses, but we both have very differing ideas of how that should work. And that's the main thing that I think Dimension 20, the cast has such a great chemistry together that their characters just immediately kind of shine, and you can see how their separate relationships with each other are going to be a big driving force through the campaign. The interesting thing will be to see, because this is different from, I think, the previous campaigns that they've done, because previous campaigns were very like epic level fantasy. You know, they are very much like, yeah, you're fighting dragons and fighting nightmare kings and saving the world from these from things. Well, this seems to be very political, very politically focused. There's a scene where the king has to decide who of his lords and vassals are going to go on this envoy to the Concordian Empire, and it's a very interesting moment where this might be me reading into it, but it's almost like the players are like, oh shit, like this is a decision that I have to make. And he does kind of blow it off, which in character makes sense for the king, who's just like, I'll just get one of my head of state to decide that stuff, because he's not very interested in politics. But it is a very interesting look into, this is going to be a very different style of game. This game is going to be very much about the allies that you make and the people that you piss off, and that very much Game of Thrones, like, yeah, Littlefinger might be a little shit, but you might also want to keep him close by because you don't trust him and you know that he's going to stab you in the back, but you also know that you need to make him happy so that he doesn't do that. And so it's very fun. The world is super colorful and interesting, which is the way that Brennan, the Dungeon Master, is able to just create these interesting and funny characters with, you know, the taking these archetypes that we know of, like, yeah, these are like the goofy, they're like they're these little tart men that are like goofy little soldiers, and just the way that like everything in the world kind of operates and works, like even like the chalk being these like Necco wafers and stuff like that, is to where it's, you know, it's something that you've seen before packaged in a different way. You know, we've seen, you know, this kind of like high fantasy might not be the right word, but like high political stakes, like, you know, very medieval fantasy, but wrapped up in this kind of food, you know, kind of packaging that makes it super funny and interesting to watch. And the lore of the world is just super interesting, about the Ravening War and kind of this balance that these kingdoms have made together, and about what's going to happen when the current emperor dies. And I think that's going to be obviously the big moment of like when he passes away, or when the new emperor is kind of, you know, dictated, how that's going to change the relationships between all the kingdoms. Because I imagine whoever the current Concordian Emperor is, the kingdom that they're associated in, it probably raises in stature and in power, probably over the other kingdoms. So it'll be very interesting to see where the story goes in that point. I love all the relationships between all the characters. There's another character I haven't talked about yet, Liam, who is very much the Theon Greyjoy, who was like, his family was part of, I guess, from what I understand, maybe like a rebellion or a coup, and he was taken as a ward of the Rock family. He's taken as a ward of Candia, and so he's essentially a prisoner. But nobody's like outwardly saying that he's like they care about what he does and where he moves and where he goes to, but they're trying to also treat him like he's just, oh, you're our ward. It's like, no, you're a prisoner, but we're trying to say it in a nice way. And that's been very interesting. Of the Queen, Queen Carmilla is very much, not to make more Games of Thrones references, but she's very much like a Cersei type character. She seems to be very interested in being a ruler. That is what she enjoys and what she likes to do. She likes to be a ruler, and so she is a very politically minded individual. So like the way that she talks with Liam, you could tell that she is maybe trying to manipulate him in some way, that I'm very interested to see how that goes. All of these characters kind of coming together, it makes for a super fun group, and I'm scared to see how this thing goes, because obviously the stakes at the end of the episode get really high when there is a sudden attack on their envoy as they're heading out of Candia, and one of the princesses. I say it like that because Zachariama's character, Lapin Cadbury, the like stuffy warlock, always says it like that, and so it's just stuck in my head. But one of the princesses goes down, like gets hit by a volley of arrows, I think, and she immediately like fails a death saving throw. So this is definitely going to be very different from the other games that they've run, where death is a very real and immediate thing that could happen to these players. And I think that fits with the vibe that they're going with, this very medieval type like fantasy game that they're playing, where it's more about where combat's not necessarily going to be fair. There are going to be sneak attacks and counterattacks, and there are going to be like people making machinations in the background and trying to fuck people over. And so I'm very interested to see how that goes, especially just compared to their other games that they played. It's super fun, and I love kind of the world, and you could just see the amount of work that's been put into it. Every aspect of the world that they even like barely touch on seems to have years of history behind it, which I'm a sucker for when it comes to actual play shows. Getting to learn about the history that the Dungeon Master and the people have created behind the scenes. It's super fun, and I'm very curious to see how this thing goes. I'm curious to see how long the characters that we currently have are going to survive for. I think that if they make it past the next episode, which is probably going to be whatever this sneak attack was on their envoy, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens once they get to, I think Kamada is where they're going to, where this big tournament is being held, because that seems to be where kind of the levy is going to, that feels like the the midway point of season 1 of Game of Thrones, where like Robert Baratheon is like impaled by a deer on a hunting trip. It feels like that's going to be that moment of like, all right, things are changing, and the way that we know the world now is going to be different. So I'm very excited to see how these characters kind of grow and change, and how many of them actually stay and don't get killed off. I don't think that the princess that went down is going to die the next episode. I think that they'll probably figure out a way for her to be okay. But I imagine that halfway through the season, we're going to see some interesting betrayals and some interesting, because all the characters seem to have their own kind of plans in the background. Liam's family seems to be pushing for him to take out the King Amithar. The two princesses kind of have their own, Ruby and Jet have their own things that they want to do. One of the princesses seems to be in a relationship or wanting to be betrothed by another prince of another land, and so that could turn into a very, maybe like a Sansa Stark situation, where she kind of leans to sides with the team of the person that she's trying to be betrothed to. And there's also some interesting things about Lapin Cadbury, the warlock kind of scholar, and how he seems to have he has a patron, or his patron is the Sugar Plum Fairy, who's not, who's like kind of, if I had to compare it, like old, like kind of like more of like an old world religion, while most of the other, the main like practice religion is that of the Bulbian Church. And this is not part of the Bulbian Church. This is like kind of like an old world type of magic, and an old world type of deity. So it's interesting to see Lapin, who pretends to be a member of the Bulbian Church, who's actually following the Sugar Plum Fairy, to see where that kind of goes, and what the Sugar Plum Fairy themselves, what their goals are, and how Lupin, I think it's Lupin, how Lupin is kind of going to enact that. It's already in the first episode, it's only like 2 hours long. It has so many different threads to be able to pick up and things that I'm interested to see how they continue further along. It's also hilarious. Like I said before, this cast has an amazing chemistry. And I'm just excited to see the lore of this world grow, and I'm excited to see where everything kind of shapes up and where, by the end of this series, what our party looks like and what the world kind of looks like. Yeah, I love Dimension 20 and I love A Crown of Candy, and I'm excited to see more. I might do some more of these like one-offs on the episodes, or I might do like a full, at the when the season ends, like a full just my thoughts and things at the end of the season. And I might do some more about like just talk about Fantasy High Season 1 and Season 2 or in Sleeping City. I don't know. I have a lot of free time on my hands now, so we shall see. Either way, I'll talk to you later.